Hopefully the people. Yeah. All right, I'm going to try something here. Let's see if this works. My favorite bell from our church. I brought a recording of it to hopefully open up our service, so be good. Good morning and welcome to our off-site service for the First Unitarian Church of Alton. It is Winter Winter Chicken Dinner, and it is a fundraiser for our church today, so we're glad you all could be here. Thank you for joining us today, and we welcome those of you who are going to be viewing this service remotely at a later time. Everybody say hello. Hello. Okay, great. I'm Robin Berkeley. I'm the president of the congregation, and I also serve as a worship associate. We are a small lay-led congregation located in Alton, Illinois. Come on in. Located in Alton, Illinois, we welcome everyone to this home of comfort, spirit, justice, and hope, and chicken dinners. And we are Unitarian Universalists. We open the service with the prelude that Joy Heft, our pianist, pre-recorded. Thank you. I'm glad Joy had the presence of mind to record all those things in advance, so that's great. Thank you. An important ritual in the Unitarian Universalist faith is the lighting of our chalice. Unitarian Universalists have many different interpretations of the flaming chalice, including the light of reason, the warmth of community, and the flame of hope. We celebrate all of these reasons together as Unitarian Universalists, and even more. There's many, many reasons why this light means so much to us. So, for logistical reasons, I'm going to light the chalice today. Normally I would invite someone to do that, but it's probably easier this way given the context. So join me to recite our unison words for the chalice lighting, which is, we hallow this time together by kindling the lamp of our heritage. And of course, getting the thing to light is always a challenge. There we go. Hopefully that will not blow out. We'll see how that goes. Our opening prayer is number 419 in the gray hymnal, attributed to Kalidasa. Look to this day, for it is life, and the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For yesterday it is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today, well lived, makes every yesterday and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. Rise in body or spirit and join me in the first hymn. Come sing a song with me, number 346. You've got the words in front of you. Awesome. Thank you. Please be seated. So the theme for the month of August is communion, and it's really kind of apt given that we're here today to break bread and to eat chicken together as part of the fundraiser for the church, as part of something that supports our community. Communion is defined as an act or instance of sharing or intimate fellowship or rapport. This is expressed so fundamentally in our UU principles. And I see this most clearly in number 2, which says justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Number 3, acceptance of one another and encouragement in spiritual growth in our congregation. And number 7, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. After a long year of worshiping from afar, probably 18 months actually, it is a delight to be together again, breaking bread and enjoying chicken with all of you again. And anytime I get to spend time with you all, I am lifted up and at peace. Hey, Phil. It meant so much to me to be able to view our service at church when I was in Florida after my father died a little over 2 weeks ago. To be in communion with each one of you and with each other is essential to UU identity. So let's enjoy our communion today together. Typically, with our joys and sorrows ritual, we would either have a stone ritual that we would put it in water, or we were trying to do something a little bit different at the church to write it out and it can be read. But I'm going to invite anybody here who wants to share their joys and sorrows. If you want to stand up for a moment and share something good, share something that you want to have us offer a prayer of silence to support, I'm happy to do that. Hello. So I'm going to share my joy of just being able to be, that joy of being able to see you all when I was in great need, at a distance from everybody here, and to have all your support. And what occurred to me as I was down there, and how lucky I was to have the community of friends that I have, both here at church, but even outside of church, and the people that had my back and cared very much about me and made sure that I was doing okay. Run away. She's so sweet. So that's my joy. And of course, sorrow is all about, understanding that my father has passed. And that is great sorrow for me. My relationship with him is, he was always like a rock for me. So I have some joy and some sorrow in both of those things. It works together. I think that's the interesting thing, is joy and sorrow are two sides of the same coin, that things that bring us joy can also bring us sorrow at the same time. And we have to embrace that and look at opportunities, but not forget the grief that we need to experience when that happens. I also want to offer a request for some prayers for Nancy Mcgillson, who had hoped to be here today, but her dog is very, very sick, and she's actually up at the University of Illinois getting some emergency surgery. It's her baby. A couple of days ago was the anniversary of her daughter's death, and so she's got a lot of stuff on her plate. So let's lift up some prayers or some good thoughts and energy for Nancy, please. Yeah. If anybody else wants to share something, please feel free to stand and share your joy or sorrow.
Our family recently had a family member with a health scare, but it has kind of brought about closeness with my nephew Morgan, who's here with us today, so it's been a real joy to be getting closer to him while we kind of navigate that.
Wonderful. And so prayers to your family and welcome, and I'm glad you could join us today. All right. Anybody else? Okay. For any unspoken joys and sorrows, we offer up our thoughts and communal energy to provide support for those who could not be here and for those whose voices could not be heard at this time. All right. So thank you all for your stewardship, support of the church. Our numbers, as you know from our annual meeting last week, went up from the previous year. So this, to me, is one of many symbols of the strength of this community and the love that we all have for each other. So this is a gentle reminder that our community of faith is supported by giving, but not just giving of your money, obviously, giving of your time and talents. In times of trial, we need each other even more. I challenge you not only to consider stewardship to be financial donations, but also about your time and talent. If you can't write a check, can you donate time to serve the church community in some way? Volunteer to clean up the grounds, help make repairs where needed. Can you call housebound members? Donate as you can with your time, talent, and or treasure. All are needed for our church to thrive. Your financial gift can be mailed to the First Unitarian Church of Alton, P.O. Box 494, Alton, Illinois 62002, or you can give electronically through the Givelify app, which is located on our webpage, or through PayPal, the link is also available through our webpage. If you have something that you would like to offer to the church in terms of your time or your talent, please contact a board member and we will be more than happy to assign you to something fun to do. So we're not going to have passing the tray. So if you want to make a donation, whatever, on your way out, you're welcome to put it right here. Your offering is graciously accepted, and I know it was lovingly given. So if you'll join me in the offertory prayer, may this offering equip us, and the strawberries, to inspire love and to seek justice. Our reading is from the online book Conversational Leadership by David Gertine, and is titled, What is a Real Community? So understand this is coming from a business perspective as he's writing this, but I will be sort of trying to, this is my bailiwick. As you all know, I have a PhD in business. So community is one of those soft, fuzzy words that many people do not fully understand and even find alienating. It is a word that gets used loosely, its meaning confused and distorted. So what is meant by real community? Community and culture are often confused, but they're not the same thing. Organizational culture is the attitudes, customs, rituals, values, and beliefs shared by the member of an organization that governs their behavior. Every organization has a culture, good or bad, no matter what, but that doesn't make it a community. In business, we talk about communities of practice and communities of interest, self-organized networks of people with a common agenda, cause, or interest who collaborate by sharing ideas, information, and other resources. We also talk about virtual communities that consist of participants in online discussion forums, such as LinkedIn groups discussing topics of mutual concern. Facebook is another one, right? These are all communities, but they are not necessarily communities in the full sense of the word. So, what is a community? At a basic level, a community can be defined like this. A community is a group of people who share something in common. The full concept of community, however, has several dimensions of meaning. Each aspect needs to be in place for a community to be considered what I call a real community. A real community is a group of people who, number one, share something in common. A company or an organization can also be thought of as a community. People who work for the same organization have the same organization and the success of that organization in common. If you work, I missed a word there clearly when I retyped this, I apologize. If you work for IBM, for example, you are part of the IBM community. A community could be where you live, for example, at Edwardsville, Troy, Alton, and anywhere in between. A religion, a religious community, like a Christian community, or a Unitarian Universalist community. A culture, such as a British community. A place, a London community. Or more broadly, the international community, business community, or financial community. Number two, we care about what we have in common. Just because a person shares something in common with you does not always mean that they care about you. To be part of a real community, you need to care about what we have in common. Number three, care about each other. To be in a real community, not only do you need to care about the community, but you also need to care about and respect each other. You need to be loyal to one another and build healthy relationships. Not many communities genuinely have this characteristic. The London coffee houses of the 17th and 18th centuries were small communities, but I doubt whether the people who frequented them cared that much for each other. In business, a community of practice meets the interaction criteria, but people don't necessarily care about each other either. A social club might be an excellent example, however, of a community that does care. They interact regularly. I think that's number 4. You can share something in common that you care about and that you can care about each other. But if you don't frequently interact with each other, you are not in a real community. A scientific community or a local community are examples where not everybody in those communities interact. Number 5, they are passionate about a common purpose. To be in a real community, you need to be doing something together that is worth doing and makes belonging to that community matter. You need to be passionate about the purpose. The community needs to have a purpose. Have shared core values. Although not everyone's values will ever be the same, nor is it a good thing that they are the same, it helps if many of the community's core values are shared. Caring about the community as a whole. Although someone may be part of, say, a local community and that they live in a particular locale, if they do not care about that community and do not interact in any way with their neighbors, they cannot be said to be part of that community. You need to have an active social role in building and sustaining the community to which you belong. So, being in community. Community is much more than belonging to something. It's about doing something together that makes belonging matter. We also talk about being in community and having a sense of community or community spirit. This is what it means to be in a genuine community, a feeling of belongingness or togetherness. You can be a member of a community in that you share some things in common, but fail to be in community because you just don't care. Henry Mintzberg, the well-known author on business and management, makes the point. An enterprise is a community of human beings, not a collection of human resources. We are not cogs in an organizational machine, but human beings, social animals, living and working in a social world. There's an insightful point and a mindset that has tremendous potential for changing the nature of the world. And he says of work, but I like just saying the world. So revising my earlier definition, a community is a group of people who share things in common, care deeply about each other, and work closely together towards a common purpose about which they care. Creating the conditions for community should be a goal of any organization. Amen to that. So on that point, I'm going to bring the chair over because I hate standing behind this thing. Does this work for camera? Okay, good. Thank you. So I'm going to sit up here because I'm tired. It's been a long week since I've been home. I'm going to keep this really casual. I've done a lot of talking this week between work-related things and personal things, and I'd love to hear from you all. And I'm going to pose some questions, and then hopefully we can all maybe have just a discussion about this. Because community, what I wrote in the, if you haven't read the newsletter, was out yesterday, Mary sent it out. An important thing for me as I came out of our annual meeting last week was having a sense of the different ways that we expressed ourselves as a community. Number one, the financial support that came to us was tremendous and more than we actually had expected, and I'm so grateful for that. Obviously, we have room to grow and room to do better, but I thank every single one of you who put your hands in your pockets and were able to give what you could to us as a church community. So I think John's sermon of last week really set the tone for community, what it means to be in community together, even though it was a different theme for the month, but it really fed into where we're at and what we need to be really rethinking as we move forward. The whole discussion around the building is going to be really, really hard. And that was the tone that I wanted to make sure people understood, that it's going to be hard and not everybody's going to be happy. But community is what matters first. And we have to decide what are the things that we put forward first as a community, right, to ensure that the community's well-being is handled. And those the issues of mobility, access, and accessibility, and parking, have to be first and foremost because we have to care about all members of the community. That's essential. So I want you all to know that the board puts that, and any disagreement from me, Alex? Nope. The board puts that as our highest priority, is ensuring that there is mobility access. May not be relevant to you now, but I'm going to tell you as somebody that had a knee replacement and someone who's, closing in on 60, I'm thinking about mobility issues. This is essential, all right? And I know many of us, in here have that same thought going on in our head about how we want to make sure that this place that we call home, wherever home will be, is going to be important to us. So our highest priority is seeing and exhausting every single option to ensure that the building that we have could be accessible in some way that meets the needs of people, and then we'll move on from our decisions from there, okay? Trust in the process. Don't dig in your feet and say, I can't, I won't. Just let the process be. Let's hear how it lays out, and know that we have everybody's interests at heart, okay? So there were a lot of good things about community last week. Also, we talked about needing somebody to help us in the office, and we had somebody volunteer to do that. Whether or not that's going to play out, we're going to talk about this next week. That's a great news also. So community, people stepping forward and saying, I can help, I can do this, right? I left that meeting feeling, wow, we accomplished a lot. And at the same time also feeling like, this is what community is, that we were working to reconnect after being apart for so long. We stayed tethered to each other in many, many ways during that time, and that meant the world to me, to know that. I mean, because certainly when I took on the presidency last year this time, it was overwhelming. I'm like, oh my God, now what? Alex feeling the same way. I was like, oh my God, we're doing this thing, And we had a lot of challenges ahead of us to figure out how do we keep people connected in a way that's meaningful. And we've done it, and I see faces here. I see new faces here, and I see, faces that have been here for a long time, and that lifts me up tremendously. So I'm going to ask you all. I want you to tell me what you think community is and how we as a church can do a better job or an improved job, always room for improvement, how we can improve community, how we can do, what can we do or what can we do better? Maybe that's a better way of putting it. What can we do to add to the process? What can we do better to make that work? If anybody wants to just share, let's just talk about community, what that means to you all.
I looked at my calendar, and I don't remember the date anymore, but recently was the anniversary of when my wife and I joined the congregation. Now, for those of you who haven't heard the story, stay tuned.
It's a great story.
What happened? We moved to Alma in 2010, and Claudia had been attending Presbyterian Church down in Murfreesboro. We went to the Presbyterian Church in Alton and succeeded in closing it down.
They had their own issues. It wasn't you.
Anyway, so we were looking for something else for us. Claudia's daughter and her husband came to visit, and we were driving around, showing them the town, and drove by the church building, this place, and Mark said, what's that? I don't know. I'll find out. So, we go online, do a little research, and we said, let's go see what's going on. So we attended a couple of services. And what I liked was that we were easily accepted, whatever we were, however we were, whatever our past had been, whatever our beliefs were, we were home. And the community is what we found.
Mm-hmm.
So better. Pretty good.
We are indeed.
Because we accept each other now. I don't know how well you know me, but I got some flaws. One of them I think can't shut up. But you accept me for that. I'm going to shut up.
I do no need to shut up, Phil, because I appreciate what you bring to our community. And if anybody needs daylilies, that's the guy to talk to. As soon as I get that bed finally dug, I'm coming back for more daylilies and that stupid oregano that my son killed because he didn't water it. Okay, so yes, that was the thing. I echo that because I walked into this church. Lane Simpson had been nagging me for years. You got to come to this church. You got to come to the church. I'm like, and you don't ignore Lane. And also, but I was like, church. I mean, I came from my own background as Catholic and then just needing to separate myself from that. And I thought, all churches like this. And then I walked into this church, and within 2 weeks I joined because I'm like, yep, this is exactly where I want to be. This is a place that cares about knowledge. It cares about growth. And I have never felt not accepted for who I am as an out lesbian. It's been something that has always been, I never worried about that. I never felt like somebody didn't have my back at one level or another. So absolutely important. And of course, I joined it, and Lane had never actually officially joined the church. And about a month or so later, she decided it was time to join because I had joined. So there you go, Lane. I'm thinking about you, honey. So anyway, it was fabulous. Other people want to share what community means to them, even if it's not about this community, but what community means in general. And it takes a village. So we're going to run after the little one. What does community mean to you? And I'm a teacher, so I can outweight you. Go ahead, Pat.
People come and go.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, just leave because they want to for some reason. Some people leave because they have moved, But it's still, there's always the coming and going, but there's always still that feeling. There's enough people there that, and then you keep in touch sometimes with people who have gone already. I still do.
Sure.
Sometimes our Facebook page helps us keep in touch with people that have come and gone, and still keep in touch with them. And I really enjoy, and I've had a lot of times that I've been desperate for help with something, and someone is coming forward, and that feels very much appreciated. So, doing things, fun things together we haven't been able to do during the pandemic last year, and going to the worship service and kind of feeling like everybody there is, different. I've met more different people than, I would have otherwise in my job, I've met more different people. I met people who are deeper thinkers than I am, and I really appreciate the conversations that go on. It's not like I worked as a teacher, the conversations in the lounge work, where you've been shopping lately, just like that.
Sure.
There was never anything deep. And we have a lot of, really interesting discussions, and I appreciate, the topics. It's a variety of topics, which, I think is a good thing. It's not just all based on one particular book, and you've got to read that book.
Right.
That's all there is in the world that you need to know. It's, based on, we say we take from many sources.
Right.
We do. And so, I like the sources, and I like that everybody kind of agrees, even though they might have different opinions about some things, they kind of agree on the basic principles that we go by. And people who are much better than I am at, some of those things, but I'm striving to be better.
That's all we can do.
It's nice to, meet people who are really living by their principles.
Absolutely.
And that's,
No, it's beautiful. Thank you, Pat. I know you've been a member of the church for how long?
since I think 89,
Since 1989. So
were the Unitarians before that who had
at the Thomas Jefferson, right? The fellowship, right? That was a fellowship that was in North County.
from a Baptist background growing up. And when I came, my husband and I started coming to a Unitarian fellowship, it was a revelation to me.
Yeah.
That accepting existed, and that was one thing I didn't like about the Baptist church. It was like, this is the way, and this is it.
Only one way.
And if you want to follow the rules, you're going to go to hell.
Sure, absolutely. And I like what you had to say about differences, because one of the things that I did this week, I had a full day training session with a company in St. Louis on diversity and inclusion, and one of the important themes throughout, of course, that little training session that I did was about how important it is to be comfortable with differences. And even for myself, I as much as I would like to think I'm pretty woke and pretty sensitive to issues, I've learned so much already from this community. I came in with a certain mindset towards a pagan perspective, and I've come to accept that and embrace that and appreciate that in a very different way, to the point where I now, feel grounded to earth-based things. I mean, it may not be the only part of my faith. My faith is just, it's complex, and I love that Unitarian Universalism allows it to be complex, that I don't have to have one set of beliefs about the way it should be. And one of the things we know about difference and unconscious bias that comes to play when things are different, right, is that the more we expose ourselves to that which is different from us, that which is not the same, our bias, our unconscious bias dissipates, because we learn and we see what we have in common. Coming back to the reading, right? What do we have in common? What do we have that we have as core values? You mentioned our principles. Those are the core values that hold us together. I'll never forget. And I'm going to come back to tease him about this when he comes to come speak with us. But my brother is in flux. His spirituality is in flux. And he's going to come speak to us in a couple months. I'm trying to figure out the date when that's going to be. But when I first told him that I was thinking about, looking at a Unitarian church, I mean, this was in Madison, Wisconsin, the whole Frank Lloyd Wright, beautiful building up there. I was thinking, oh, maybe I should go up there and take a look at it. And he's like, he was a hardcore Christian and had gone to Trinity Evangelical for his MDiv, and he said, Unitarians don't believe in anything. Ooh. And so I didn't investigate it. That's on me. And I should have investigated it, because if I had done that, I would have known differently. So when Lane finally said, come on, you got to come here, I'm like, all right, I'm going to do a little homework and look into this a little bit more. And I realized, no, we believe in a lot of things. We just don't believe that there's one right way to think about it. And that's okay. And we're a covenantal religion, right? A covenantal faith that says we're going to covenant to support each other in community to go where we need to go, right? And to be who we're meant to be. And we honor everybody's path, even if that path takes them away from our community. Bravo to them. They're finding what matters to them, and if we've done nothing but inspire that in them, I love that. I mean, I would love to be an evangelical faith that brings everybody into this place, because this is a great place. But I also recognize that everybody's journey is their own journey, and we have to respect those journeys. And I belong to this really cool group. It's a Facebook group, I know, saying strange as it is, but it's a really powerful group. It's called Blended Lines. And Blended Lines is a group of people that was started by this gentleman who's interracial himself. I think his mom was white, his dad was black, I think. And he wanted, after the whole kerfluffle of George Floyd and stuff that happened a year or so ago, he wanted to bring a group together that could help us reach across the gap between white and black, or white people and brown people, between gay and straight, religious and non-religious, whatever the categories were. He wanted to bring it together. He wanted it to be a safe place for people to ask questions, to have debate, and to feel like they could have a good conversation about things, the intellectual things that you were talking about, Pat. And sure enough, I joined this group. A friend of mine, after a debate on my wall, my friend's like, you got to come join this group. I'm like, all right, fine, I'll come join it. I'm like, very tentative about it because I'm like, I got to sniff this out before I invest too much. And we had a really good conversation this week about an individual who said, I'm looking for a faith community where I'm not told what I have to believe, that I get to expose myself. I like to expose myself. And I'm like, I said, Unitarian Universalist without a doubt. Now she's in Birmingham. So I'm like, Birmingham community is pretty strong. Go for it. And I think you will find what you're looking for there. So, and back to the point about my brother, like I said, his faith is evolving. He went from an evangelical Christian to really walking away from it. And he's going to come here hopefully in a couple weeks virtually because he lives in Tacoma. But he's going to talk about his journey away from that and more towards the pluralistic view that he is, where he's at right now. And I keep telling him, I said, you're a secret Unitarian, dude. So, but we'll see how that evolves. But I want him, I invite him to be a part of this because I think his journey, he is so incredibly thoughtful. I have so much respect for my brother, and he is so incredibly thoughtful about his belief systems and how he wants to manifest that. And he strives to be consistent and thoughtful and intellectual and all those things. I mean, this is a guy who's traveled all over the world. He's lived in Italy. He taught English in Italy and in Japan and lived in Israel for a year. And half of that year on the streets and taught himself Arabic and Hebrew from scratch, from riding buses and reading signs. He's just a really resilient guy, and I think you'll like his message. I hope you will. Anyway. Anybody else want to share good things about what they think community is? What does community mean to you?
Martha, growing up I didn't go to church. He was never really any religion. I can count the number of times I walked to the church Christmas time to see something.
Yep.
But growing up, when I started to get a little older, around 16 or so, I found out that my family was Unitarians going way back.
Mm-hmm.
And we were living in Hungary at the time. My mom this was a Unitarian church, but she wasn't somebody who went to Unitarian church either.
Mm-hmm.
Going on through the years, had a lot of family in England that was stationed there that were Unitarians. And going way back, family there. And I've been to some Unitarian churches in England, but I didn't go to services or anything, just but they're the physical ones.
Sure.
One of them might actually be more Unitarian church.
Oh, wow.
But going on in time, it got to a point in my life where I was really, about 9 years ago, where I was really just spiritually just not there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking for anything to help me there. So there's a couple of meetings I joined, and it's actually down on Broadway, Alton,
Mm-hmm.
at an antique shop. And I saw this plate there, and it said Unitarian Church, and it had a picture of a church on it. It said it was in Alton, and I asked her, where's this church at? Because I didn't know there was a Unitarian church. I've never been really near a Unitarian church or living with one. He said, it's up on the hill. I know. He said there's a bunch of churches up on the hill, but I don't know what this one is. And I looked out the window, and I could see the car. I took it as a sign I ought to at least try this out.
Try it out. Mm-hmm.
So I started coming here, it's almost over 8 years ago, and started coming to services, and it's grown on me.
Awesome.
I like the fact, like you said, that it's not a church that puts down a religion on you.
Mm-hmm.
I came to find out that my family's been going to services going back all the way to the 1700s.
Wow.
They were in Birmingham, they were just like the priest's congregation. So it's kind of interesting that history going back and looking at that history and seeing family members how they were involved. And great Aunt Helen on that, that in 100 back in about 1990. She was a big Unitarian. We were talking about that as well. So I don't know, it's a community, it's the first religious community in the tribe. I really like the fact that it's liberal. A lot of people here with a lot of different backgrounds. I really like the fact that a lot of scientists, teachers, a lot of I'm a mathematician myself, so it's extremely different.
That's beautiful.
I don't know. That's why I'm here. That's why I like this community. And I've gotten to meet a lot of people here. Some of them have come and gone over the years. Try to keep contact with some. That's what I'm having. It's a good point.
It is. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. And I'm glad to get to know you better, too, because there was a couple of years I wasn't here as often as I wanted to be. And I think that's about the time when you started. So I'm looking forward to getting to know you better. So welcome and thank you. Anybody else have anything else they want to share? Do you want to share something, Ramona? No? Okay. No problem. All right, folks. So community, I think, take that with you as we consider our discussions about, you know, our journey as a community. Thank you. Sorry about that. Community, right? So our journey as a community, let's focus on what we need for a community. Let's work our values. Let's put our values front and center in any decision that we make. Make sure that we have each other's back. And hopefully, as we can begin to continue to meet at the church, COVID willing, obviously, we want to have some more communal events. We want to have our choir. We want to do the things that bring a community together, that are symbolic of our love and connection to each other. So I'm on board, and I'm glad you're all here, new and old faces, and that excites me. So thank you very much for your time and message. All right, let's get this out of here. Back again? Okay, good. All right. And where my notes are. All right, our final hymn is We'll Build a Land, number 121 in the gray hymnal. And begin whenever. announcements. Go eat chicken. It's our chicken dinner day, so please come join us, enjoy, be in communion and be in community. We are going to need volunteers to help with our fourth Saturday at the end of August. Keep that in mind. If you can help, I'm going to put a notice out, and we're going to ask people to volunteer for a schedule sometime over the next couple of months, so Mary doesn't feel like she has to scramble every month right before the due date, trying to get people who can come and help. It's not hard. We have rearranged the program so that we're in front of the door, people come up to the door, and we can help people that way. So it's not like there's a lot of people running around the building, and we need multiple people. We need about four-ish. I think that four people we need about. So every month, including Mary. And I'm going to try, now that my schedule's a little stable, to be there as well. If there's any social justice issues that you think that's something that we can be or should be doing, let us know, because this is something that we need to start walking the talk, right? Not that we haven't stopped doing that, but of course with the pandemic, that's been a challenge for us. So I know that I have to reserve our table at the Tower Grove Pride. So if anybody wants to help us with tabling at the Pride celebration at the end of September-ish sometime, I would appreciate that. But that's on my agenda to deal with on Monday, is to get that table reserved so that we can move forward with having some representation at the Pride celebration. And I think there's going to be Alton Pride coming up. I don't know if anybody's aware of that. I'm waiting for them to be in touch with me about it. But they want to do something in October, so we need to be there and sort of showing what we do and walking our talk as we will. Anything else? Anybody have an announcement they want to add? Loretta, you're going to be in the pulpit soon, right? September. Good, thank you. Anybody else want to be in the pulpit? Just let me know. It's easy peasy. It's a lot of fun. I love being in here and talking with people. So, okay, good. All right. So I invite you to join me in reciting a prayer as I extinguish the chalice, which extinguished itself already. How about that? So, the light of truth and meaning cannot be put out. We are keepers of the flame until we meet again. So sorry about that, dude. Okay. Our closing words are from Theodore Parker, 683, in our gray hymnal. Be ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple, all space. Its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, works of love. Its profession of faith, divine living. Go in peace, eat lots of chicken, and love to you all. Thank you for being in part of this community. Postlude. Woohoo! Yay!